All right. Good morning, everybody. We are at the very, very, very last line of Daf Lamed Vav Amud Beis. I think it's kedai to speak out two things before we get started. It'll make the first part of the Daf run a little bit smoother. The first is in relation to Hilchas Nida, which again, I'm certainly not a doctor and I'm not even a rabbi. But the bottom line is, what happens if a woman finds that she is a Nida? The question is, how long, does she have to treat herself B'tumah? Meaning, let's say an hour earlier she handled Truma, she handled Hektish. Do you say that, all right, it's only from the moment she notices the dam, that's when she's Tameh, but everything before then is fine? Or do you say, no, she has to look back a certain period? This is the very first Mishnah, Mistefas Nida, Machlokas Hillel, Machlokas Shammai. We end up poskening that she does have to look back a certain period, either 24 hours or from the time of the last Bedika. But we know that a woman who's non-Jewish doesn't really have Tumas Nida. So what the Gemara is going to address in about a line is what happens. And again, it's not really our sugya, so we'll do it quickly. But what happens if you have a woman who is Megayer and after the mikvah she notices Dami? What do you do? The other halacha that's worth speaking out is something that we saw in length in Masechtas Yevamos, which is the idea of havchana. Anytime you have a girl who was married or had a relationship with a man, and then the relationship terminates for whatever reason, she has to wait 3 months before marrying again. The first guy and the Zerav, the second guy. That's going to feature very prominently in the beginning of the Daf. Okay, so the context of the last line of the Gemara is we learned a Mishnah yesterday where Rabbi Yehuda basically said that when you have a woman who was a captive and then she was freed, Rabbi Yehuda says a very special chiddush, notwithstanding everything that we've said in Masechtas Yevamos, in Ksubas so far. Rabbi Yehuda says we don't assume she was violated. We can assume, at least for whatever reason, that Harehi Biktushasa. So the Gemara is going to ask, Rami Le Rav Papa Bar Shmuel Rav Yosef, the very last words in the bottom of Daf Lamed Vav Amud Beis. Moving on to Lamed Zayin Amud Aleph. The Savar Rabbi Yehuda Biktushasa Kaima. Is it really true that Rabbi Yehuda says that when a girl was in captivity, we can assume that she wasn't violated and she stays in, Biktushasa Kaima? Tanya, we have a Braisa Hadioresh and a Skyra Barasa Dam. You have a woman, a non-Jewish woman who is Megayer, and then she sees Damida. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Dayashait. Rabbi Yehuda says you don't have to worry. You can assume that she's only Tameh from the second she sees the Dam. Rabbi Yossi Omer Harei B'chala Nashim U'Matama Me'es La'es U'Makida L'Pakida. Rabbi Yossi says, like the Chachamim say in the case of a full-fledged Jewish girl who wasn't Megayer, they know, notwithstanding the fact that she was maybe she came out of the mikvah an hour ago, you still have to look back 24 hours. Again, not our sugya, so we can move on. The point that we need is that Rabbi Yehuda says when you have a girl who's Megayer, she still has a concept of Havchana. She cannot get married to a Jewish man for 3 months. She has to wait 3 months. Rabbi Yossi Mater Li Ares Ulenase Miyad. Rabbi Yossi says, no, I don't, Gersh, and she's Katan Shnola Dami, and therefore you don't have to wait 3 months. She can just get married right away. What's the kasha of the Gemara? The kasha of the Gemara is, Rabbi Yehuda, you just told me that when a girl is a shvuya, we don't assume that she was violated. But how come when it comes to a giores, we do assume that she had bia before she was Megayer, and therefore she now has to wait 3 months? And the question jumps off the page, right? The Gemara is about to ask, what are you even talking about? There's two completely separate topics. Amar Le, Rabbi Yosef says back to Papa Bar Shmuel, giores ashvuya karamis. You're asking me a kasha on shvuya from giores? Like the two are nothing to do with each other. Giores lo mitzvah nafsha. The giores, maybe she had a boyfriend. I don't know. She was doing whatever she was doing. Shvuya, mantra nafsha. But a shvuya, when she's in captivity, assuming she's not forced, she's generally going to try to avoid her captors. And therefore, Yehuda has a shita that, we don't have to assume she was violated. So what exactly is your kasha? So the Gemara says, you're right. It was a different kasha. But Rami shvuya ashvuya. The kasha was on Rabbi Yehuda's shita and our Mishnah on shvuya from a different brisa that deals with the shvuya. Tanya, we have a brisa. Hagiores, Hashvuya, Hashifcha. Now we have a rights that specifically calls out Shvuya. So you have a Giores, a Shvuya, and a Shifcha. Sheniftu, Sheniskayru, Shenishtacharu. Either the girl was redeemed, the girl was Megayer, the girl was set free by her master. Assuming they became free when they were older than 3 years old. Yehuda holds in all three of these cases, there's this concept of Alchana, they cannot get married unless they wait the 3 months. Rav Yossi matula aretz ulenasimiyat. But Rav Yossi is lets them get married right away. Now here we have a real steer on Rabbi Yehuda. On the one hand, in our Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda says that when a girl is captured, we do not assume she was violated. In this price, Rabbi Yehuda says when you have a girl that's captured, she has to wait 3 months. Why did she have to wait 3 months? I thought we assumed she wasn't violated. So now Rabbi Yosef, here's this kasha ishtik. Rabbi Yosef says, you're right, that's a good kasha. Amr later, Rabbi Yosef says back to Rav Papa Bar Shmuel, Midi Shemilach Bahad, do you have an answer to this kasha that you just asked me? Amr lay, he said, Hachi Amr Rav Sheshes, this is what I've heard from Rav Sheshes, Sheru'ua Shenivla. You're going to have to say that the way Rabbi Yehuda gets out of the stira is in the second brisa, he's going to say, it's not that we just knew she was captured. We actually have Adim that saw that she was violated by the captors, and therefore she has a din of Avchana. But the Gemara asked the obvious question, Yehachi, my time to Rabbi Yossi. How do you understand Rabbi Yossi? Rabbi Yossi says, you don't have a din of Avchana. Well, if we knew she was violated, why would Rabbi Yossi let her get married right away? Amar Rabba, and this is the part of the sukkah where I'm not a doctor. Amar Rabba, Kasamar Rabbi Yossi, Isha Mizana Mishameshes B'moch Shlo Tisaber. When a girl is put in a situation like that, she will use some primitive form of contraception to ensure that she doesn't get pregnant. It's important to just speak out. This Rashi over here, Mishameshes B'moch, that Rashi says, no senes moch la'achar be'ila v'shoeves hazara. Again, I don't exactly know what this means, but it sounds like some sort of primitive, plan B type thing, where it's something that a girl does post Bia. But the reason why I'm stressing this is it's going to be clear from the Hemshech of the Gemara that it's not like today where you can drive to CVS the next morning and take care of it. It's something that you would have really had to have on hand and do really following the Bia. So the point is the girl would have had to have been prepared to do this. Okay, why? So we'll see why I'm stressing that. So the Gemara says, Bishlama Giyorez, I can hear that answer that a woman is Mishameshes B'moch in the case of a Giyorez came and died to Ligure. She knows she's about to be Megayer. She's going to want to marry a nice Jewish boy. She doesn't want to show up and go to the mikvah when she's pregnant. So of course, to the extent she has Bia prior to the Giyorez, she's going to make sure to use this plan B. Shvuya Nami, even in a case of Shvuya, she doesn't know where they're going to sell her next. For all she knows, she's going to end up in a Jewish neighborhood. Someone's going to ransom her. She's going to want a shidduch. She also doesn't want to be pregnant. Shivchanami, even in the case of Shivcha, the Shamami Bimara, right? Maybe she'll hear through the grapevine that her boss, her master is about to free her. She also doesn't want to be pregnant. But it sounds like from the Brisa that it's Shivcha Shenishtachachru in all circumstances, including a circumstance where she was Yosef Hashem Ba'ayin. We know that in the case of a Shivcha or an Eved, you knock out their eye, you knock out their tooth, they go free right away. So the Gemara says, in that case, how would she have known to be Mishameshes B'moch? Why does Rabbi Yossi say that even in a case where a girl, a Shivcha, is freed because she was injured, why does she not have to wait for 3 months? Why is there no din hafana? She would never have known to use a moch, right? So maybe she is pregnant. So the Gemara says, maybe you'll say, you're right. Rabbi Yossi will agree. In a case like that, you do have to wait 3 months. He was just saying in all the other cases where a girl had reason to not be pregnant, that's where she would be Meshemeshes B'moch. But the Gemara says that's untenable because in the case of Anusa Mafata, again, a girl specifically in the case of Anusa, she had no advance warning as it was coming, right? And Betania, we have a Brisa, Anusa Mafuta, Srichos Lahamtin Gimel Chadash and Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yossi Matil Aras Linasim Miyad. We have the same Achlokas Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi, even in a case of Anusa. Now again, Rabbi Yehuda's shita makes sense. Rabbi Yehuda says if a girl was Anusa, she has to wait 3 months because again, we have a din avchana. But how do we understand Rabbi Yossi? You can't say the case is Mishemeshes B'moch. She had no idea. She was, how that was going to happen to her. So Ella Amar Rabba has a different way of understanding. It says Kasab Rabbi Yossi Isha Mizana Misapechas K'deish Lo Tesaber. It's not so much that there's this moch, there's this primitive form of plan B. It's even more primitive. A girl, when she's in a situation like that, she has a way of contorting her body in such a way post-bia that she can make herself not be pregnant. So therefore he says there's no din of chana, because if a girl ever finds herself in this situation, she can do maneuver her body in a way where she wouldn't get pregnant. So then how do we understand Rabbi Yehuda? Why does Rabbi Yehuda say that there is a din of chana? The idach, Rabbi Yehuda will say chayshina and shem alone is hapayapaya. You're right. I mean, I think girls can do this, but obviously doesn't always work. You know what I mean? So therefore, misafek, we're going to tell her to wait 3 months. Obviously she should do what she can to not get pregnant, for her own reasons. But in the event that it doesn't work out, Rabbi Yehuda says better to have the dan chana and wait 3 months. Okay. The Mishnah then said towards the end of the Mishnah, gave us the makor for kim le midravamini, right? The makor that when a person is chayev misa b'dei adam, he doesn't also pay money. What was the makor? We've said this a few times. It's the parsha in Mishpatim of two men fighting and they hit a pregnant woman. So the Gemara says, is that really the makar to Kimle ben Rav? We have a different makar. The pasuk says in the context of when you give someone malchus, the pasuk says aso b'mispar. The Gemara we darshan kederish aso mishum risha achas otamachayav v'yetamachayav mishum shtei rishuyos. You only get one punishment. You only get malchus. You don't get the second punishment. You don't get malchus and mammon. So the Gemara says, why do I need two makoros? The Gemara says, chada b'misa umamon, v'chada b'malchus mamon. One of the makoros tells me I'm not chayiv misa and mamon, and the other one teaches me I don't get malchus and mamon. And I need both. So can diash minan misa umamon. If I only had a pasuk that teaches me that we say kimle bid rabbi minay when I'm chayiv misa, we shouldn't eat neshama. That's because I'm already getting killed. I mean, let off a little bit. You're already killing me. Don't make me pay money too. Aval malchus and mammon elect ibn neshama. But in a case where we're only giving the chayav the guy malchus, maybe it's not that bad. You should malchus and pay money as well. Emalo. And v'iyash minan malchus mammon, and we'll go the other way too. If I only had the pasuk by malchus and mammon, we shouldn't lo chamari surah. Maybe I would say, listen, malchus is bad enough for what you did. You didn't do something that horrible, so you will get malchus and call it a day. Aval misa umamon the chamari surah. But when a person does something where he's chayav misa, maybe we'd say, listen, we'll throw the kitchen sink at him. You killed someone, so you'll be chayav misa, and you'll also have to pay the money to the family. Emalo. Shricha. The Gemara now asks, Agashmak Akasha, right? But we know this only works if you hold that Kimle bid Rabbi Minay applies by Malchus and Mammon. What about Rav Meir? Rav Meir, the Amar Loka Mishaleh. Rav Meir holds that you do in fact get Malchus and have to pay money. Tarti Lamali. Why do I need two psukim? So we'll say Chada b'Misa u'Mammon. One of them is referring to Misa u'Mammon, like we said, and Chada b'Misa u'Malchus. And the other one, the other pasuk tells me not Malchus u'Mammon, but Misa u'Malchus. And again, I need both psukim. Diyash minan Misa u'Mammon. If I only had the pasuk by Misa u'Mammon, I would say Mishum dechada b'Gufei, dechada b'Mammon. The reason why we say Kimle bid Rabbi Minay is it doesn't make sense to punish me once physically and once to make me pay a monetary amount. Lo abdinan. Aval b'Misa u'Malchus. When it comes to Misa and Malchus, the idi b'Gufei, Ema Misa Ruchti. Maybe I'll tell you it's not. It's one long Misa. First we give the guy Malchus, and then we put him in the electric chair. Right? It's one big punishment. So benavid me. But v'iyash mi'inan Misa u'Malchus. And if I only had the pasuk Misa u'Malchus, the tarti b'Gufei lo abdinan. We just say the opposite svar. I would say that's why you say Kimle bid Rabbi Minay, because they're both. There's no reason to punish him twice. B'Gufei, we're killing him. You don't need to pile on and give him Malchus too. Aval Misa u'Mammon. Maybe I'd say that's when you would do it. Just as worth speaking out, the very top Tosfos, if you're just holding the cheshbon, right? So now we have two psukim, and in theory, three punishments. We Misa u'Mammon, Malchus u'Mammon, Misa u'Malchus. So according to Rav Meir, who says that you do give Malchus and Mammon, everything makes sense. But according to the Rabbanan, who hold Kimle bid Rabbi Minay in all three cases, you only have two psukim for three cases. How do they learn Misa and Malchus? So the top Tosfos deals with it, and he says that they learn both of them from Kedei Rishas. Okay, moving right along. Really from here to the Mishnah is we're going to be darshaning certain psukim. It's all really good stuff, and gets a drop confusing, but we'll do what we can. So the Gemara says. So again, right now the context of the Gemara is we have a makor for Kimle bid Rabbi Minay. The Gemara is now going to talk about three specific psukim that all apply in the context of a rotzeach, all at the very end of Parshas Maseh. Pasuk says below siklu kofer lenefesh rotzeach, and the Gemara's understanding what the pasuk means now is that when a person is chayav misa, lo siklu kofer, you don't also impose a monetary penalty. So the Gemara says, Lamali, I already know Kimle bid Rabbi Minay. Why do I need this pasuk? So the Gemara answers, the Amar Achmara, no, that's not what that pasuk is coming to tell me. What the pasuk is saying is lo sishko mamona minei betiftre miktala. When you have a person who's on death row, you have a person who's chayav misa, don't let him weasel out of it by paying money. If a person's chayav misa, he's chayav misa. That's it. There's no way of getting out. Okay. The very next pasuk in Parshas Maseh says lo siklu kofer lo nusel ir miklato. Same halacha, but with respect to a person who kills b'shogeg and he's chayav to go to the ir miklat. And the Gemara's havamina is we're saying when a person has to go to the ir miklat, we don't also impose a financial penalty. Lamali, I already know Kimle bid Rabbi Minay from the sources that we talked about in Amud Aleph. Same answer. The Amar Rachmana, that's not what the Torah is saying. What the Torah is saying is lo sishka mamona minei betiftre min galus. When a guy is chayav to go to galus, don't let him weasel out of it by paying money. No, the guy's got to go to galus. He's got to go to galus. So the Gemara says a trey pray lamali. So just told me this a second ago. Why do I need it both for a rotzeach b'mezid and a rotzeach b'shogeg. So the Gemara says chad b'shogeg, chad b'mezid, utzriche. I actually need both. Why? Di'ash mi'inan mezid. If I only had the pasuk that says I can't pay my way out of death row when we're dealing with a rotzeach b'mezid, maybe I think the reason why he can't get himself out of it by paying mammon is because he did something horrible, he killed someone b'mezid. But a person who kills b'shogeg, all right, maybe say, listen, he has to go to the Ari Mikla. If he's willing to pay himself out of it, all right. If I only had the pasuk b'shogeg mishum delaka ibn neshama, I'd have an opposite svara. I would say, listen. You have to also remember in the times of the second base of Mikdash, these Kohanim Gedolim, they didn't live very long. So going to the Ari Mikdash is not that big of a deal. I mean, it could be a few months until Yom Kippur, and right now, 6 weeks, Yom Kippur done. You know, the time you get there, it's not even worth hiring a moving truck. You know what I mean? You come right back. Right? No, of course. I'm saying the reason to go to Ari Mikdash is to learn on the ways. Meaning he's saying it's shocking that we would even let a guy not go to Ari Mikdash. Then they would send them to Ari Mikdash. That's not called shogeg. Yeah. Either way, the point is. Either way, if I only had the pasuk, by a shogeg, right? The pasuk that teaches me, if I only had the pasuk that says that if I have to go to the Ari Mikdash, I can't weasel my way out of it by paying by shogeg. The svara would be mishum delaka ibn neshama. The reason why I can't is because Bezdin is not killing anyone, right? So here, where I'm only going to the Ari Mikdash, Bezdin would say, listen, it's not that bad. Go to the Ari Mikdash, like we spoke out. They'll be out of here in no time. The Kohen Gadol is going to die anyway soon. Just go to the Ari Mikdash. Abel mezid, when a person kills the mezid, di'ika ibn neshama, where Bezdin now has to kill someone. Amalo, maybe I'd say, you know what? Before, that's a pretty severe. We're not generally pro-capital punishment. In order to avoid having to have Bezdin kill someone, let him pay money. It's probably better for the family anyway. What does the family gain by having this guy killed? Let him pay money to the family. Amalo, Kamash Malan, we need both. Okay. So then the very next pasuk, the pasuk says, the pasuk, it's a very dramatic pasuk, and it says when you have a rotzeach, nothing gives the land kapara outside of having this person be killed. Meaning, again, it sounds like you can't get your way out of it by paying an amount of money. Lamali, we just spent 2 pasukim saying this. What do we need the third pasuk for? The Gemara says, no, that's a different halacha entirely. So the context over there, we have an egla rufa. So we have a person, we find a dead body. And we don't know who killed him. It's right in between 2 cities. We don't know what to do. So the Torah tells us we have this concept at the end of Parsha Shoftim. The concept of egla rufa, you kill a calf a certain way, you say certain stuff, everyone's good. Okay, well, what happens if you do the egla rufa and then you find the rotzeh? So what do? You say, all right, we don't have to kill him anymore. We already did this whole egla rufa. So the pasuk says, absolutely not. The only way to get kapara, shenemar ula'aretz layichuper ladamash ashupakwa. The only way to get kapara is you still kill this guy, and that's what I need this third pasuk for. But the Gemara says that's untenable. If you look back in the parsha of Shoftim, we have a pasuk that literally says the same thing over there. In the parsha of Egla Rufa, the pasuk says, "Va'ata tevaer hadama nakim mikrepecha." Right? We have another pasuk that literally says the same thing. If after the Egla Rufa you find the guy, you got to kill him too. Because the point of doing Egla Rufa is the pater, because we don't know which. That's what I'm saying. From our city, we're going to ask your to do this. Yeah. When they found the dude, of course, kill him. So we already have a pasuk. So what do we do with that pasuk? Lamali. The Gemara says, we actually have a different limit for that pasuk. Minai in the mumsim b'sayif shehumin et saver, when a person is chayev sayif, misavide adam, right? How do we know that the way to kill him is a knife to the neck? Meaning maybe you take a knife and stab him in the heart 100 times, or you stab him somewhere else and you kill him. How do you know you have a nice clean death to the neck? Talmud Lomar, this is the pasuk from in the parsha of Egla Rufa. Bukshu kol shofchei damim le'egla arufa ma lahalam minat savar. Just like with the Egla Rufa, we do a nice clean, we do it on the neck. It's not all that clean. But af shofchei damim minat savar. So too, when a person is chayev misa b'sayif in Bezdin, we cut his throat. E malahalan the kofe tumul oref afkan the kofe tumul oref. By the egla rupa, it's not a nice shlita knife to the front of the neck. It's a big a kof. It's a cleaver to the back of the neck. That's pretty painful. Maybe we should do the same thing to a person. We know that by a person, you cut the front of the neck because I think it's a quick misa. Maybe not. If we're comparing to the egla rupa, use a cleaver, clap him on the back of the neck. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rav Baravua, Amar Kra, V'yahafta l'recha kamocha, Berur lo misa yafa. No, maybe you would have a havamina like that, but we know that the pasuk says after l'recha kamocha, if you're going to kill someone, you got to do it in a nice way, and therefore nice, clean, cut. Again, I'm only I'm only filling in for Rabbi Reese and Yo. You got to speak to them. So period. So the next, we're going to continue on this theme, right? We just had a few psukim at the end of Parshas Maseh that said when a person is on death row, he can't weasel his way out. The Gemara is now going to say we have psukim at the end of Parshas Bechukosai that seemingly say the same thing. The pasuk says, "Kol cherem asher yecharam min ha'adam lo yipadeh." Again, it sounds like it's saying the exact same thing. When you have a person who's chayav misa lo yipadeh, you can't get out of it by paying money. Why do we need this pasuk in Bechukosai? I already have the psukim in Maseh that say that. So the Gemara says, that teaches me a different halacha. A person is literally on death row. A person's on his way to the gallows. And someone in the gallery is watching this, and he says, Eriko alai, like from Din Erichin, right? A guy says, I'm going to have to pay to the Beis Hamikdash the value of that guy who's literally walking on his way to the gallows. How do you know that this erech, it's meaningless and the guy doesn't owe any money? That's what that pasuk is teaching, right? Because the guy, there's no value to this guy. He's literally on his way to death. The Gemara just says, just to finish off the thought, maybe I would think that the halacha is true of a person even prior to the Gemara din. A guy is just in court, awaiting sentencing. No, the pasuk says kala adam. This halacha that we just said by Erichin, that basically if you say, I'm going to owe the Beis Hamikdash that much money and I don't owe anything, that's only if there was a post the Gemara din, not pre the Gemara din. But the point is, we don't have an extra pasuk because the pasuk in Bechukosai is not really telling me that I can't weasel my way out of death. No, it's teaching me a totally separate halacha in Erichin. Period. Very good. But the Gemara, and really from here to the Mishnah, is really going to say that all works if you hold that pasuk applies to Erichin. But Rabbi Chananya ben Akavia, according to Rabbi Chananya ben Akavia, the Amar Naroch Ibnesha Damav Ketsuvin, he disagrees with this entire premise, and he says that's actually not true. When you have a person walking on his way to the gallows, and someone says Eriko alai, you do have to pay an amount to the Beis Hamikdash. Why? I thought his life isn't worth very much. He's literally about to be killed. Because in the concept of Erichin, we don't look at every person individually. It's not actuarially. So when a person says the erech of Levi Khan alai, we don't look at me, myself. We look at a person who's 30 to 50, who's married, who's a non-smoker, who drives a Honda Odyssey, and blah blah blah. And then he's chayav 100 shekel, or whatever the amount is. So Rav Chananya ben Akavia says, I don't care if this specific person is literally on his way to the death. The point is he's a male and whatever it is, and therefore you'd owe whatever the amount is. So now the problem is, according to Rav Chananya ben Akavia, who doesn't use that second pasuk to teach me this halacha and erichin, what do you do with the extra pasuk? Seemingly, hi kol cher my avale. We have two different psukim, one in Maseh and one in Bechukosai, that seemingly teach me the same halacha that I can't weasel me out of being on death row. So he says, he'll use the pasuk l'chiritanya. We have a Bryce, Rabbi Shmuel ben Osher, Rabbi Yochanan ben Broka Omer. We know that there are people that are chayav bidei shamayim that in fact can get kapar by paying money. What is the example the Gemara is about to say? The context is if a person has a shor muad. So I own a shor muad, I should really be watching it, but I don't. Goes, kills someone, the shor is put to death, and the pasuk says, "Begam ba'alav you must." The owner is also killed. The owner is not actually killed. Bezin doesn't kill him. He's chayav misa b'dei shemayim. But the pasuk then says, "Shnemar im kofer yushas alav." He can get out of it by paying kofer to the family of the nizak. So the same way that when there's a misa b'dei shemayim, a person can get kapar by paying money. Yachol af b'dei adam kain. So I would have a havamina that maybe even if I'm chayav misa b'dei adam, I can also get out of it. Talmud lomar cherem min ha'adam lo yipader. Kamashmal on this pasuk. But the Gemara says the ein liela misas chamuros from midla shegasim the kapara Misos kalosh and nidna shegasan lekapara minayin. Even if I only had one pasuk, maybe I would know this halacha by the very, very, very severe, misa bidei adam. What about if I'm only chayiv kares? How do I know? Tamalomer lo cher. Fine, whatever it is. But the point is that we would use the second pasuk to teach me a halacha that when a person's chayiv bidei adam, I can't get out of it by paying money. And the Gemara's kasha is just going to be, it jumps right off the page. That literally was what the pasuk said in Maaseh. So here you're telling me, oh, what do I do with the extra pasuk? I learn a halacha that when a person's chayiv misa bidei adam, I can't get out of it by paying money. That literally, that's the entire kasha, right? The kasha comes back. So what do you do with it? Why do we need two psukim? The Gemara asks, that is exactly the question. So how did you even answer the question? So again, according to the first, remember we had a kasha, and the Gemara answered it by saying the second pasuk, the one in Bechukosai, teaches me halach and erech. And according to that Tana, everything's good. But according to Rav Hanani ben Akavi, who said I don't hold of that halach and erech, I have two psukim that seemingly say the exact same thing. So when a person is chayiv misa b'dei adam, he needs to be killed. He can't get out of it by paying money. What do I do with the second pasuk? Right? Kol cherem lamali. So Amar Rami bar Chama, he says, I'll tell you what we do. It's sal kadai chamina hani mili. I would only turn the page. Hani mili heicha da hargo derech aliyah. Shlo ninna shegasim lekapara. Aval hargo derech irida. The ninna shegasim lekapara. Ema nishka mamona mine v'niftarei kamash. We know there's a halacha when it comes to killing the shogeg. So setting the stage, a person's in a forest, he's got an axe, he's chopping a tree, and the axe thing flies off and kills someone. We know that if you're swinging the axe in a downward motion, derech yerida, and that's when the axe flies off and kills someone, you go to the Arei Miklat. But if you're swinging the axe derech aliyah, you don't go to the Arei Miklat. It's more severe, and you're not even able to go to the Arei Miklat. So I would have thought, if I only had one pasuk to teach me that I can't reason my way out of it, I would think that's only where you did it derech aliyah. But if you did it derech yerida, then maybe I can reason my way out of it by paying. Kamash malam, the second pasuk that teaches me no, whether it's derech aliyah, whether it's derech yerida, I can never get out of my misa b'dei adam, or even my my misa b'dei adam with paying money. But the Gemara is going to ask an awesome kasha. If you recall Wednesday's shir, we had this Tana de Bechizki, we had this hekesh between Behema and Adam, which we're about to see again. Amalei Rabba, but ha midiktana de Bechizki anaka. You're going to tell me there's a difference between derech yerida and derech aliyah when it comes to mammon, when a person's chayiv misa. We had this mefurisha Tana de Bechizki, and he had a hekesh maka Adam maka Behema, ma maka Behema lo chilak bein shogeg lemezi de miskavin she'ein miskavin. When derech yerida derech aliyah lepotra mammon, any single time your animal does damage, right, and hurt someone, it doesn't matter how, it doesn't matter mazid, shogeg, miskavin, ain't miskavin, derech yerida, derech aliyah specifically calls those out. You're always going to be chayav mammon. Af maka adam. So too when you kill a person, lo tachlek bovei shogeg lemezid miskavin she'ein miskavin derech yerida derech aliyah lechayav mammon lepotra mammon in every single case. And again, the Brisa specifically calls out this difference, derech yerida or derech aliyah. You're always going to be pater mammon. So how could you tell me that's why we needed the second pasuk to teach me that? Because I would have, if I only had one pasuk, I would have thought derech aliyah, yes, but not derech yerida. Of course not. That's what Chizkiah Mefurish told us, that you never differentiate between those two. So again, the pasuk comes back. Why do I need two different psukim to teach me the halacha that when a person's chayiv misa b'dei adam, I can't get out of it by paying mammon? Ella Amar Rabbi Bar Chama says you're right. We need this extra pasuk. Doesn't teach me that halacha. It teaches me a halacha in the context of kimle b'drabmine. Itzrich sal kadai t'chamina. I would have thought that kimle b'drabmine only works hani mili te'echadesima es eno b'harga. But I would have thought, well, let's say while I'm killing someone, I also damage him in one fellow swoop. Then I'm not going to be chayiv the mammon, and I'm only going to be chayiv the misa. Aval heichadesima es eno b'harga b'davar acher. But let's say over the course of our fight, first I blind him, and then a minute later, then I kill him. Maybe I would be chayiv. I would be chayiv the mammon, and I would be chayiv the misa. Heva nishka amona minei. I would have thought maybe then you do pay the mammon. Kamash Malon, this other pasuk that teaches me no. Kimle b'drabim minei applies in all scenarios. Amrle Rava says this is also untenable. Hanami me'idach tana de Bechizkiah nafka, because we have another limud from the Bechizkiah that teaches us this would not be pshat. The Tana de Bechizkiah ayin tachas ayin lo ayin v'nefesh Tachas ayin. What does this mean? We all are familiar with the pasuk ayin tachas ayin, shein tachas shein, yad tachas yad, regal tachas regal. And what does it teach me? That even if I knock out someone else's eye, even though the pasuk says you knock out my eye, that's not literal, and you pay mammon. How do we know? The Gemara in Bava Kama teaches it like this. Let's say that would have been the halacha. If I knock out someone's eye, Bezdin comes and knocks out my eye. The reality was, back in the whatever year this was, they had fairly primitive medicine. So if they took out my eye, there could be an infection. I might end up getting killed. And the Gemara and the pasuk says ayin tachas ayin, not ayin v'nefesh tachas ayin. I shouldn't be killed because I knocked out someone's eye. Therefore, the Gemara knows that ayin tachas ayin can't be literal. It must mean I pay money, and don't knock out my eye. What does that have to do with us? So Rashi is very, very, very sussum. The Rishonim kind of struggle with it. But I saw the Art Scroll actually brings the Tosfos HaRosh, and he explains it like this. Once I know that ayin tachas ayin refers to money, and not literally knocking out my eye, so Tana B'Chizkiah teaches us is this halacha that I only pay money is only tachas ayin, when I knock out an eye. But if I knock out ayin v'nefesh, if I knock out someone's eye and I kill him, then I don't pay money. Then I'm chayiv misa, but I don't pay money. But the bottom line is, again, this answer that Rami Bar Chama tried to give to explain why I have an extra pasuk is untenable. So we need last try here, but we're almost done. One more try. What do I do with this extra pasuk? Amar of Ella Amar Ashi Itzra. I need the second pasuk again in the context of Kimle B'Ravamini. Why Kasalta? I Amina Hol V'Chidushu Shechichator B'Knas Afagav the Mikdal Mishalem Kamash Molan. If I didn't have this extra pasuk, I would think that Kimle B'Ravamini only applies when I'm chayiv nisa and I'm chayiv monetary damages. I'm chayiv aman. But let's say I would be chayiv knas, right? In that case, I would be chayiv because knas is a chiddush of Torah, and therefore Kimle B'Ravamini would not apply to a knas. Kamash Malan, the second pasuk that says even when I'm chayiv a knas, Kimle B'Ravamini applies, and I'm only chayiv nisa. I'm not chayiv the knas. The Gemara just says one final kasha, also a geshmaka kasha in light of the sugya that we did this past week. Ula Rabba, but we know there's a Shitas Rabba, the Amar Chidushu Shechichator B'Knas, and Afagav the Mikdal Mishalem. He says that's actually not true. That when you're chayiv a knas, Kimle B'Ravamini doesn't apply. You're chayiv misa and you're chayiv the knas. What does he do with this extra pasuk? The Gemara is kind of backed into a corner right now. So the Gemara says, right? Sorry, just finish up the kasha. Hi kol cher my avli. What does he do with this extra pasuk? So the Gemara says, Savar Allah Katana Kamdra Chanana ben Akas. We spoke out a number of times. This we had an answer. According to the Tana Kama that argue with Hanani ben Akava, he'll say that, what do we do with this extra pasuk? It teaches me some halacha and erechin. I'm good to go. We only had a kasha according to Hanani ben Akava. You said, I don't hold it that halacha and erechin. Well, if you don't hold it that halacha and erechin, now you've got to come up with an answer. Rabba's going to tell you, because all these answers don't work, I'm going to have to hold like the other Tanya of Hanani ben Akava, and I'll learn that the second pasuk teaches me that halacha in erechin over there, and we will Shabbos. We will end our